don't bring it out to the live game, and so.
Have you ever had this experience on like playing online? It's like you're just playing, and all of a sudden some just guy like maybe you whatever you sucked at him, and then some guy just starts screaming at you. I'm just like, whoa, I didn't even know we had a rivalry.
Yeah.
So I'm usually pretty calm. It's like don't care, whatever, and then shout out to Mr. Bunny wherever you are. You just start screaming at me. I'm like, oh, I didn't know we had a rivalry. So there was a last show I actually didn't mention somebody. Brian Oleska, Balls Deep X. Like, there's a lot of stories of like poker players with like shady ethics. Like Brian Oleska, I want to give a shout out to him because he did the opposite. I've never even met the guy when we were playing online, and then the table was gonna break, and then he got the button, and we were just down heads up, and we obviously play like every day. We got the button, played a hand, and then he typed in, he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna give you the button because that's unfair." I was like, "That's totally unnecessary, but
Yeah.
thanks."
People
Yeah,
hit
But
all
I
the
just
time.
remembered that moment because it's like I don't know the guy, and and like when I saw him in real life, I'm like, I remember that moment. So it's
Yeah, that's always an awkward situation, even both live and online.
who gets the button? Yeah,
Etiquette, if you're friends, if you're not friends, like the etiquette changes, and like it's
sure.
like if you're not friends, it's definitely usually just like a race to hit sit out. If you are friends, man, it gets awkward. Like what's ethical, what's not ethical.
I
Like,
mean, I don't know if things change, but usually you just deal a card, and then that's how many hands you play, or
usually live,
Yeah.
you will pick a card or pick a suit if it's heads up. If it's
Yeah.
like five-handed, you should. That's what we usually do when the Friday game breaks. Is we draw for a card to see who plays the last button.
right.
Online, I have
It's just gotten brutal, man.
especially in like the back in the smaller communities, so like NJ Online, for example, like people would often text me when the game was breaking and be like, let's draw for the button, like don't button me.
Oh,
And
okay,
like
yeah.
so I never really, it was like tough to keep in my mind, like
Right,
who do I
that you're-
draw with,
yeah,
who is it a
yeah.
race with, like
Yeah.
the same way that like live players often don't remember who they chop the blinds with when it folds to them in the blinds.
I see. Yeah.
So it's always a little bit awkward. Honestly, in big bet, it really doesn't matter that much. In limit games, it makes a
Right.
huge difference,
Yeah.
and big blinds are worth so much more than
Right.
in no limit and PLO.
Right.
So I really try not to get too stressed out or like yell at anyone over big bet stuff. But
Yeah.
in limit games, if you are getting buttoned in online games, it's almost like a detriment to being able to win. Like it's crazy
Oh yeah.
how big of a deal
right.
it is.
Yeah.
There was a guy.
I mean, like I
Um,
said, I just didn't expect it because we were playing online, and he didn't know who I was, or we never met each other in real life, and just so it was, just like a lot of that stuff is. I mean, a lot of the heads-up players back then did button people, if I recall too.
Well, yeah, was it Grimming and
Grimstar.
I forget who the other guy that wasn't Grimstar that did this a ton.
Shout out to Live of the Bike fan James Grimaldi.
Basically figured out, and the guy who solved it actually plays in Los Angeles now too. What they realized was the button used to go on PokerStars to whoever started the table.
Yeah.
So whoever was sitting at the table got to start with the button.
Yeah.
And in Limit Hold'em, for example, I forget, the small blind was worth like half a big bet
It's
versus
a
the big
lot,
bet. It's
yeah.
a ton.
Yeah.
And so if you started the table and played an odd number of hands, 3 hands, 5 hands, assuming you and the other player are basically equally skilled, by starting with the button and playing an odd number of hands, you would win half of a big bet every single time someone sat at your table, and then you would just go start a new table.
Yeah.
So if you're playing 100, 200, every single time someone sits down at your table, you just win $100
Yeah.
in long-term EV. And so these guys were just printing hundreds of thousands of dollars a year just playing 5 hands at a time in 3-hand sessions, and like they didn't have to be the better player. They could be the worst player, and they were just crushing everyone. And I think it was shout out to a guy, T. Piranha. His name is Tony Perrone.
I know T. Perrone.
He plays out in LA now, who basically using a HUD, this is one of the advantages of a HUD, basically went through and was like, holy shit, how are these guys winning so much money? Like, and then looked at it and was like, this guy's played 2 times as many buttons as he's played big blinds.
Yeah, because he
And
figured out
that's where the money's coming from. It's
Yeah.
not like that his win rate was impossible. And so why is this win rate impossible? It's because he's playing twice as many buttons as he is playing big blinds.
Speaking of impossible win rates, his win rate's impossible.
Yeah.
No, he was one of the best limit players in the mid-stake stars. So shout out to him, and he's one of the reasons that I decided to play on full tilt instead of a star. Also, I didn't want the commitment to do Supernova Elite, but and the rake back on full tilt was more consistent.
All right, let's switch from online topics.
Sorry.
I think chat might be a little bit confused by some of these topics.
You could Google all these guys; they're all legends.
Yeah.
Man.
wrong topic, guys.
Yeah.
We'll take some questions from the chat before we wrap it up. If anybody has any
If anyone has
actual questions for myself or Dan or Wayne, fire away. Dan, how much did you play How much did you play online back in the day?
A decent amount. I was never like, I got much more into like higher stakes or like bigger poker after turning 18 playing live. But I certainly played a lot of hands like free rolls and micro stakes online way back in the day. But I was no one of note online.
Eldar wants to know if you make more money than your brother, the lawyer.
Not answering that question.
JJ, we talked about the push-up bet a couple weeks ago.
Hey,
We don't bring that
JJ,
up again.
you and Weez, heads up for rolls on the stream. Let's do it.
Hey, we've talked about the push-up bet a couple times. Yes, JJ and I'm sure JJ would play Weez.
Of course.
I do not play on global XDR.
Me and Wayne have played on there a little bit.
I play micro on global. Was that actually you on global?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was playing with you guys.
I have not
You do
ever
that.
played
What?
duplicate.
I wasn't sure. I wasn't told because it could easily be a troll. I mean, I didn't know.
It wasn't my name.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I don't remember. Yeah, I remember. Yeah. I was like, this has to be Ryan.
Yeah.